Hey guys, welcome to TGS. One of the questions we get pretty often is, how do I improve without training? Can I get better without shooting? People who are just starting, don't have shotgun certificates, or perhaps, actually probably most commonly, people abroad who do not have access to the great instructors that we have here in the UK. So I thought we'd do a video on how can you improve with solo training. A lot of it's going to be based without a gun. I'm going to talk a bit about what you can do actually at the range with a gun. I've made a few phone calls to a few instructors and got a few opinions. I even put a poll out on Instagram to find out what people thought. So I took a lot of notes and we're going to look through them all. There is a huge amount of opinion and information, and obviously remember that every single person is different. When there's a clay target in the sky or a pheasant or a duck, there are limitless possibilities to how you can address that bird, that target, and how you can kill it adequately. You've got different methods to swing the gun through it to kill it, to find your lead. You've got different mounts, you've got different styles. You could probably kill it at any point during its flight path. So bear in mind that we're all different things will work for you. Not everyone's the same. Let's go. Number one, and this is the most recurred thing through absolutely everyone, and probably is more important at the beginning of your shooting career than not, and that is dry mounting. That is learning to mount your gun from a ready position to a shooting position. There will come a point, by the way, where this will be completely useless to you. It will become such second nature, unless you are perhaps the person who never pulls the trigger and then goes to pick their gun up a year later. You might actually want to refresh yourself. But there will come a point that if you shoot enough and mount your gun enough, that you will need to stop practicing this. And the only reason you'll do it is because it makes you feel good. And if you can't got access to the range, you can pretend to shoot targets, but we'll get onto that later. Gun mount is pretty vital. Consistent gun mount is, I would say, probably a touch more important than a good gun fit, because you can work your way around a gun that doesn't fit consistently with a consistent mount to work around it. And I'm not suggesting that, but in an ideal world, a good gun fit with a good mount is paramount. And when you're starting, the key difference that you see, certainly when you're at the range looking around, the difference between those who can shoot and those who can't, a lot of the time, is the ability to get the gun smoothly and consistently into your shoulder and onto your flight path of death. Dry mounting can be done in numerous ways. I say at the start, I suppose it is just about practicing the mount in your shoulder and actually getting the gun comfortable, and then it will be about getting it from a gun down position into the shooting position. And then eventually there will come a point where you will start actually checking that. You can put blue tack on a mirror, mount up to it. You can mount with your eyes closed and open them to just double check that you are not sort of cheating yourself into a gun mount. Either way, what you're really looking for is consistency of gun mount, and getting to that point when you're starting out shooting is important. It's not to be stressed enough how much time you should be dedicating to that at the beginning. I remember as a kid learning to shoot and my instructor saying, "You've got an air gun?" I go, "Yeah," and he goes, "Well, sit in your room and just practice mounting it. And just practice getting that gun comfortably from a gun down position into a gun up position." So there you go. Dry mount. Point number two, and this was the second most commented thing out there, and this actually was Shotcam. For those who do not have access to instructors, it's obviously very hard to see where you're missing. It's actually incredibly hard to be self-aware when you're shooting. And a lot of the time when you are shooting and you think you're doing something, you're actually doing something else. Shotcam is a great product. If you haven't seen them, we did a video on them, reviewed it. We've only had it a little while, but actually since having it, I've found it extremely useful. It clips onto your barrel. In fact, if you have to put it a little bit further back, mostly just to keep your balance pretty good. If you have it too far forward, it can add a bit of weight. What this does is record a shot eye view or a gun barrel eye view. What this is most useful for from a training point of view is consistency, spotting consistency, consistency of hold point. I'm talking about clay shooting specifically here. Consistency of hold point, consistency of mount, consistency of gun speed and kill point. And obviously for sporting clays, all of those things are pretty important. Also when it comes to like pairs, if you're shooting pairs, then it can show your consistency of then moving the gun back and coming through. You can see your follow through, you can see so much. It also has a live view function, which can be handy. It's worth noting that a miss can be down to a lot more than you putting that gun in the wrong place, so you can't be going through and saying that miss was because I was above it and then trying to do it and just thinking that you at the back end here were doing everything perfectly with your face, hands, mount. But in terms of reviewing footage and actually building some consistency and building a style, I want to say a style, standard way that you move a gun on a target, that is great. One thing I found fascinating is you don't always shoot targets the way that you think you do. Your pickup point in your head and the pickup point with the gun can be very different. As I said right at the start, it's about seeing consistency. They are extremely easy to use. You just turn it on and it's recoil operated to record around your shots before and after, so you can see your approach and your follow through, which is really handy. What's also handy is that they are having a Black Friday sale for £150 off. With the £150 off, that makes it $429. It's got free UK shipping. The other thing with these is they give you a trial period. So if you're not actually happy with it and it doesn't work for you as a training aid, you can send it back. But you probably will like it because it's fun and useful. Much like a gun itself. Point number 3, dry mount. I know I said that as point number 1, but it really is that important. When you start out, go home, mount your gun 40 times a day, maybe 50 times a day if you feel like it. Put the gun away. It costs very little just to become really familiar with this tool. Self-filming. Self-filming is a great one. Actually looking back at footage of yourself and giving yourself a brutal assessment, especially when linked in something like Shotcam, where you can then not link the shots together, but you can assess the gun movement and your own shooting style, is really vital. You can go, ooh, my footwork wasn't right for that target. I know this does actually require a certain level of knowledge, which point number 5 will be, but brutal assessment of your shooting. It also gives you a nice record. You can look back and go, over a year ago, I wasn't quite so good. And I, to be fair, look at videos from myself 3 years ago and go, oof, that's messy. That is, of course, if you are seeking a improvement in your shooting. I know a lot of people are just happy to be at a level and enjoy the sport for what it is, and that is fine too. The next point, and this came up quite regularly, is there is a huge amount of free information on the internet. Educating yourself is free. I mean, there's a lot of sources of information, but some of them are absolutely fantastic. Educate yourself. We've done multiple videos with some amazing people. Those people's information is gold dust. Go and watch every video we've done with those guys. They are absolutely the masters of the art. I mean, a lot of it can overcomplicate, but at the beginning, it's just wise to know what's going on so that you can at least try and dissect some of your own issues. The next point does link on from that, and that is studying others. Certainly when you're starting out, and even in the sort of intermediate level, watch the people who are shooting 99s out of 100. Watch the people on a game shoot who are shooting pheasants really cleanly and with a style that you admire and aspire to. And learn from it. Study them. I mean, you could probably even ask them how they do it. Do you mind if I study you closely? That's what a lot of these people charge for, so you're not expecting free information from them, but it is free to watch. And I would say that is probably one of the biggest things for me over the last sort of few years, is watching people who I think I would like to shoot like in terms of style and picking up those hints from them. When I'm saying about studying people, study good people, really good people. Next point is dry mount. I know I've mentioned it for the 3rd time. This is probably now getting to the point that you might have picked up the point you need to do it up until the point it's not important. There is expansions on that. Dry mounting and pulling the trigger is important. Actually mounting up to a target and then practicing pulling the trigger, the full process, is important. That's sort of the next thing after dry mount. Target visualization can work for a lot of people. It's something that doesn't particularly work for me. However, I've got some friends who it is extremely useful for. I can do it shortly after shooting a target. Let's say you go into a stand and there is a pair with a big cross or anything, and you can go home and visualize that movement. And the gun mount and the trigger pull, bang, and then you have the going away target, bang. And you can just practice those movements, those drills in your head. A little bit like Carter for guns, maybe. And that can be really good. Alternative to that, if you can't do that, and this can be really helpful for some people, is in your house, you have straight lines. Mount the gun, go down the straight lines. Practice that at different speeds, different accelerations, different kill points across the wall when you pull the trigger. You can really learn a lot about gun movement. You can learn how consistently you can move a gun. What it will teach you is that you can't be gripping hold of it too hard, because when you do it tensely, it's really hard to follow a straight line, and actually there does need to be some fluidity with it. You can practice accelerating. All you're really doing is bonding with your gun and learning different movements, learning your body and learning how strong and how much energy it takes to move your gun from start to stop, and all these things that will come in handy when you do actually go out there and need to put those things into practice. Next on the list, shoot some clays. You can go and shoot some clays, and a lot of this that we've spoke about, actually once you've done a certain amount, you benefit more from going and shooting 200 or 300 clays than not. I understand there's a cost and a time cost to going and doing that. But don't forget that when you go and shoot clays, you will inherently get better at shooting clays for the most part. On that list as well was going and watching clays. Going and watching clays and learning to truly read clay targets is important. A lot of us get into a stand, a lot of us don't even see one. If you see one, you go, that's where I'm going to kill it, bang. Sit and study and watch the clays until clays no longer become intimidating. Until every clay you can go, I have a plan for that, I have a plan for that. I remember when we did a film with Ed Solomons and he sort of taught me about going, when you walk into a stand, you should have the plan. That's your pre-shot routine, that's the plan. Pre-shot routine practice is something in there as well, but your pre-shot routine will be very different to everyone else's, so practice it if you feel the need to practice it. Some people don't need to. Again, everyone is totally different and everyone's plan of attack will be totally different. Train your eyes and train your body. That came up from someone who I genuinely respect a huge amount. Training your body has a huge list of side benefits in terms of concentration, health, breathing, fitness. Your overall strength and stamina will improve by training your body. Go for a run, go and lift some weights, just go for a walk. A lot of these things will be beneficial. Training your eyes is something I'm not qualified to talk about, but there are people who are qualified to talk. Ed Lyons has a channel, go and follow it. He talks about some amazing stuff on there. But actually training your eyes to be better, faster, work better with your brain, that clearly has benefit because people who do it get better. The final point was this. If you can't get access to an instructor, have an online session. So I phoned a very, very well-renowned shooting instructor and I quote verbatim, he said to me, it's total bullshit, so I always refuse. And then went on to explain why. Unless something is so fundamentally wrong with your shooting style that that instructor can go, yes, you are completely wrong. You know, you're mounting the gun on your hip and your feet are 700 yards apart and you're facing the wrong way, trying to shoot them like that. It's very difficult, especially over a phone, a Zoom call. It's extremely difficult to see the clay and the shooter all in one go. It's also very hard, and it's a similar sort of stuff with the Shotcam and with cameras, is it puts a very different perspective on something. You know, we spoke at length about it, and there might be some mileage to having a full camera set up on both sides of you and on the back of you looking over your shoulder and a Shotcam. And between those four things, you might be able to sit down and spend an entire day extrapolating some inconsistencies, some things. That elite level, that top level instruction, you know, taking yourself from 80 to 100 or 70 to 100 and really nailing yourself into being just all round better, probably best done in person. Probably. There's nothing there that you couldn't do in other ways. Snake oil was mentioned. But again, everyone's different and there might be some benefit from talking to an instructor on the phone about your problems. Perhaps wouldn't expect them to do that for free. So if you're looking at that as a free way to do it, then I don't know. However, if you are in a remote situation or in a country where there are no instructors for a day's drive, then yeah, there you go. The final point is this, and this was also mentioned by someone I respect a great deal. The best practice you can do is probably to go and shoot some clays, and when you do, try and take it seriously. If it is truly training to become better, then train to become better. You need to be brutal with yourself at all points and honest. And that's where certain bits of tech, filming yourself, filming with a gun camera, can be important. Just allowing you to be honest with yourself. I know a lot of people don't really want that because it can be quite hard with clay shooting to go, I have a talent deficiency, I'm quite poor at this, how do I get better? But I think we talked about a lot of things you can do just to get some marginal gains. But on top of all of that, make the effort to go and have lessons. If you truly want to improve, it's worth the money. There are some great, great instructors out there. There's instructors for every level and every person. Remember that the way that you shoot and see a target might be different to an instructor. So when you are looking for an instructor, find one who speaks your language and speaks to you, who can actually get you hitting the targets, but more importantly, isn't all about hitting the targets, because actually hitting targets and getting you to hit a target by saying up, down, left, right isn't the game. The game is to improve your technique, your mental state going into a stand, in the confidence, and actually improving you as a shooter. I suppose that's all I have to say. And remember, dry mounting is key. Also, there's a link to all the things we talked about in the description: Ed Solomons, Ed Lyons, Shotcam, and their amazing discount this week. Go check them out. And of course, we have an amazing YouTube channel. Go watch through that. You won't learn anything, but you will be entertained. Take care, guys.